Up on College Hill, the highest point on the Dartmouth campus, the classes of 1961 and 1973 collaborated to restore and create a natural space for all to enjoy. This cherished area is home to the Old Pine and Bartlett Tower, built by Dartmouth classes beginning in 1885. Nearby, the class of 1923 etched the words of a 17th century Italian proverb at their 50th reunion in 1973. The class of 1961 became attached to this location and, to honor their 35th reunion, placed a statue of Robert Frost writing his poem, Mending Wall. In 2023, they masterfully completed their special setting with a stone wall and curved wooden bench facing the poet. Returning to campus in 2023 for our 50th reunion, the class of 1973 made additional improvements to this quiet wooded space, enhancing its use for respite and contemplation. We named our gift to the college The Rise. Here at the top of Dartmouth's campus, on a rocky outcrop, we installed a circle of stone benches that blend with the surroundings and create a place for gathering and reflection. With invasive growth cleared away, new plantings will thrive. Multiple pathways to the Rise allow full and safe access for all members of the community. The location provides views of Bartlett Tower, the Old Pine, the Frost statue, the Mending Wall and Bench, the Bema, Baker Tower, and the hills of Vermont across the Connecticut River. The next time you are in Hanover, walk up to the Rise. It is a place for new perspectives. When you reach the top, we invite you to sit in the natural surroundings, appreciate the present, remember times past, look out across campus and dream of what lies ahead.
On Saturday, October 7th, we dedicated the Mending Wall improvement to the Robert Frost statue area. The program had the following speakers: opening remarks by me, Maynard Wheeler, the class president of 61, remarks by Bob Haynes, class of 73, remarks by Mike Murphy, class of 61, and remarks by Professor Don Pease. Closing remarks finally by me. Because of issues with the video recording at the start of the event, I have re-recorded my opening remarks. Some of Bob's are missing, but here goes. Welcome to the dedication of the Mending Wall improvement to the Robert Frost statue area. We have many to be thankful for their persistence, geniality, and personal commitment to seeing this project completed on time and on budget. It started with our class president, Don O'Neill, making the great choice of Al Rozicki to come up with a project seeded by money from Jim and Carol Baum, whose recent deaths have deprived us of their company today. Ron Wybernowski, who sends his regrets for not being with us, suggested a wall for Robert Frost to contemplate, along with a bench, all easily accomplished, we thought, for $10,000. Then, fortuitously, the class of 73 blended their 50th reunion gift of The Rise with our plan, expanding the budget only a mere 20-fold. If it were not for the involvement of Bob Haynes, who will make some comments, we could never have gotten the job done. His wide contacts, steady hands, and considerable energy were key from the beginning to the end. Fortunately, we had our own Roz on hand for daily supervision and protection of the statue amidst heavy machinery. Pete Blyler supplied helpful videos along the way to keep classmates informed. Beyond all this, there was a wonderful, wider Dartmouth involvement with the beautiful 17-foot bench by Dwight Sargent, class of 72, and unique forged iron supports, including our class numerals, by Dimitri Garikaris, class of '69. And all this is supervised by Tim McNamara, class of 1978, the Associate Director of Campus Planning. It was as if only Dartmouth alumni were allowed to work on this project. Now I would like to ask Bob Haynes from the class of '73 to make some comments, followed by our classmate Mike Murphy, who captained the initial project, and Professor Don Pease, who participated at the time of our gift of the statue at our 35th reunion. Bob, take over.
As Associate Director of Campus Facilities, it's a '78. He was our godfather on the inside, making sure that everybody said, okay, this works, this works, this works. And we had a wonderful, it was a wonderful process. It was not without some trepidation as we approached graduation because we wanted to be done. And if it were not for the gentleman in the back, Jim LaMontagne, who has a landscaping and site work crew, we wouldn't have made it. He gave us fantastic pricing. His guys work overtime, nights and weekends. Roz has been up here, I don't know, 100 times or more. I've been up here maybe twice that, and he's here most of the time I come up. But Jimmy's guys were here all the time, and when we walked in just now, he said they came up yesterday and did a little bit of touch-up. So we think it's a perfect example for the rest of the college that you can do things. If you have a good idea and you commit to it and you stay together, some things can happen. They're looking for outdoor spaces. I had invited Jessica Chiraboga, who is the president of she's a senior president of the Student Assembly. She's been a prime mover for wellness and tranquility spaces inside the library. There's a center, a support center for students for various needs. And they have a tranquility room for kids who are just feeling a lot of pressure. They're now looking for some spaces outdoors. So we took a tour last week, and she said, this is exactly the kind of thing that we want to do. Professors have found it. There were times last fall when there were a couple of seminar classes who were sitting on our stones. There was a drama class that had the end of their spring term presentation here, and they asked if we could shut the machinery off, the backhoe and the loader, for the afternoon. So it works together. It's a place that got forgotten for a long time, and it's back here, and we're very proud of our chance to work on it with the 61s. We couldn't have enjoyed it more. So thanks everybody on 61.
Most of us were trained by our parents to give thanks and appreciation immediately when it was due for the good someone did for ourselves or our cause. I here today have to admit the class of 1961 is maybe 25 years late to give our thanks and appreciation to Donald Pease. As I explained yesterday, he and three of his colleagues played a crucial role in the creation of this sculpture behind me. We had made a decision that our gift to the college would be a statue, a full-size bronze representational piece of a famous Dartmouth alumnus, and we let Robert Frost beat out Eleazar Wheelock and Daniel Webster and some other famous alumni. But once the decision had been made to do Robert Frost in a sculpture, we had the question of what would be the depiction. He lived a long life, and as I explained yesterday, he made many different phases to it. So the answer came from the English faculty, and we had a great suggestion to get their opinion. And Donald was a member in those days. Professor Bill Cook was the chairman, and Alan Gaylord and Don Sheehan, the late Don Sheehan, were also members of a luncheon meeting I had when George Lundeen came to Dartmouth, sat there, we listened to what the professors had to say, and they saved the day, because I had been thinking of the Robert Frost we knew, the old man who came to the college on 2 or 3 occasions when we were students bent over, white hair, a man in his late 70s and 80s. They explained, no, that's not when he wrote the great poetry. He wrote nothing in those years. It was the young man, the farmer down in Derry, who started the work. They were convincing. They were very, very powerful in their arguments. George Lundeen, to his everlasting credit, listened carefully. He got the picture, and from that time on, the work became a real Robert Frost, the young man in his work clothes, but with a writing board, scribbling a line from one of the poems. So, I'm sorry, Professor Pease, that I'm 25 years late, but on the behalf of our class, I send you our thanks and appreciation for that crucial contribution you and your colleagues made to what we have here on College Hill. Thank you.
I think the gratitude is not only from the English department to Mike Murphy in particular and all of the class of 1961, but also from this institution for enabling Dartmouth to have a golden thread linking every class to a figure through whom the class of 1961 has enhanced the sense of connection between each graduating class and the entire tradition of class graduations at Dartmouth. The selection of Robert Frost as the figure to enhance this connection, I think, is especially apt because Robert Frost left Dartmouth without benefit of degree, as he put it. He says in his biography, recounted by most recently Jay Perini, that Dartmouth is the chief college to which he feels he belongs because it was the first one from which he ran away without benefit of degree. He was class of 1896, and one of the indications of the thought that the class of 1961 has put into this statuary refers to their giving Robert Frost posthumously the degree he would have received from Dartmouth in 1896 by celebrating the inauguration of this statue, the 100th anniversary of the class of 1896. But this is not the first occasion in which Dartmouth has attempted to reconnect this institution with one of, if not its favorite sons, its most significant prodigal sons. When John Sloan Dickey in 1955 was asked, we thought would be the primary recipient for honorary degrees that year, he said, we have to get Robert Frost back up on this stage as soon as possible. He's already received 39 honorary degrees, and although we gave him one in 1933, the only way we can demonstrate Dartmouth's singularity is by being able to brag that Dartmouth is the only institution to have given a scholar who never graduated with one degree 2 honorary degrees. So Robert Frost, the moment in which he received this second honorary degree, turned it into a good joke not only on himself, but John Sloan Dickey. He said, you know, President Dickey, I'm a student who never had the honor of a graduate degree, but now I have 40 honorary degrees, so I guess that makes me a scholar who's been educated by degrees. The joke was not lost on John Sloan Dickey, and John Sloan Dickey made Robert Frost, following that acceptance speech, guarantee Dartmouth that he would return every year from 1955 until his death in 1963 to become part of this institution, especially as it was linked to the Great Issues course. Because as John Sloan Dickey was fond of remarking, the only way a Dartmouth student can experience themselves as genuinely educated through a liberal arts degree by recognizing the necessity of translating their private voice into the means whereby their public personae can engage the greatest issues of the day. In 1961, your class had 2 visits from Robert Frost, and in January of your senior year, you would have watched, along with the rest of this nation, as Robert Frost is about to deliver at the inauguration of President John Fitzgerald Kennedy, the first engagement of the significance of that public occasion by a poet. And on that day, the weather was as, how should I suggest, inhospitable as today's. But on that day, it was the sun that was glaring on the pages he had before him. It would have enabled him to deliver what every scholar considers one of his worst poems, a poem that he would have been happy to give to the wind. And so I do not know whether the truth of the matter is that when Robert Frost pushed away the poem that he was prepared to read and instead spoke from his heart the gift outright, and in the moment in which Robert Frost, January of 1961, looking every year of his 87, seemed as if he was without resource, when he dived deeply into the heart that contained all of the reserves that he now had as his resources, the archive of his poetry, and delivered the poem The Gift Outright, Robert Frost became not merely bonded to Dartmouth College, but the poet laureate of the United States, because as John F. Kennedy would say, following Robert Frost's death at the dedication of his library, Robert Frost has given what gives America its strength, what is more important, perhaps, than the policies of a president or the public visions of a great statesman or diplomat. He's given this nation the spirit that sinews through all of that and gives the nation thereby a representation of its enduring strength. That event has to have been monumental for this class. 1961 was also the year in which Robert Frost published his final poem. It was entitled In the Clearing. And the title of the volume has to have inspired the setting for this statuary. More significantly, a line from The Gift Outright that must have resonated in the memories of the class of 1961 became the basis for each of the serial rededications of this statue by the class. The line was, "But still unstoried, the nation that is, artless, unenhanced, unenhanced." The key word, each one of the dedications by the class of 1961 takes away the un. Let me just read 3 of them. These are the rationales for the inaugural moment in which this statue came up from the ground. to enhance the connection between Robert Frost, the talented and famous poet, and Dartmouth College, which he attended for a while as an undergraduate, class of 1896, and which granted him an honorary degree in 1955. That's the first. The second, which the class of 1961 rededicated when they asked the class of 2016 to renew those connections by turning the Dartmouth College Robert Frost statue into the model for a whole series of aesthetic sketches that would result in a prize. To enhance the connection between now the various classes of the undergraduate student body and the class of 1961, emphasizing the concepts of connections and lifetime class partnering, currently being encouraged by the college and the Alumni Association. And in the call to this occasion, the final dedication, to enhance the connection between the Robert Frost statue and the class of 1961, which conceived the idea for the first statue ever permitted on Dartmouth's campus, raised all of the funds required to have a high-quality, life-size statue, and then got the college administration to install, display, and maintain the now popular statue on campus. You'll be happy to know that this statue has now become part of the Dartmouth traditions, because each class after 1996 has taken up this statue in order to produce a work singular to each class. There is now a phrase called Robert Frosted, which differs from Pillar of Salted and Parkhursted, because those who are Robert Frosted suddenly, because of a dean's punishment, experience themselves transformed from the body of an 18-year-old or 21-year-old to that of the face of Robert Frost on this statue. I want to take that concept and turn, by way of conclusion, to a poem that Robert Frost published and that received his first Pulitzer Prize for, in a volume entitled New Hampshire. In this poem, Robert Frost takes up the matter of impermanence, which traditions are invented to refuse, and writes, "Nature's first green is gold, her hardest hue to hold, her early leaf's a flower, but only so an hour. Then leaf subsides to leaf, so Eden sank to grief, so dawn goes down to day, nothing gold can stay, except the bronze statue of Robert Frost connecting all of Dartmouth's classes to the golden thread that was first unspooled by the class of 1961. For Dartmouth alumni classes who understand themselves to be permanently in a lover's quarrel with the institution from which they graduated, I recommend that all of those classes, alumni classes, all of those classes sit on the mending wall and translate their lovers' quarrels into enhanced connections with Robert Frost and the institution he loved. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Pease, for that wonderful talk. It really is an elegant speech and an elegant time. And in closing, I'd like to add the words of William Jewett Tucker, the 9th president of Dartmouth College from 1893 to 1909. And Tucker wrote, "Every man of any imagination likes to feel that he has or may have a place among the more permanent things of the world. There is nothing so great, certainly nothing so impressive in this world of limitation and change as the power to live, and still to live. Here lies the glory of institutions above the glory of men. The college was before we were, and it will be when we are no more. But as we are in it and of it, we share its permanency. And here we leave this permanent gift in remembrance of our many years of service to the college we love. Thank you all for coming." Al?
I'd just like to mention somebody,
Oh,
two people. One just arriving, Dimitri Garakaris, who was responsible with White, who didn't make it for the lovely bench that we have. And sitting in front of me, Hathorn, who was the college architect at the time that the statue was to be placed. And George, you can't say that you didn't say this because I'm going to deny it, but sitting at the bench this summer, George said he thought a lot about it and placed the statue where Robert thought he would like to be, and I think that the placement is perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you again. I mentioned Jess Chiraboga, who is the student council president. She arrived right after I mentioned her, so if you get a chance to talk to her, you'll get to know her in the future, I guarantee you. She's terrific. Great to see you guys.